I buried my daughter with my own hands 31 years ago. I watched them lower her into the ground. I said goodbye. So tell me, how is it possible that last week at exactly 3 a.m., a hospital called me and said, "Your daughter is here, and she's asking for you"? Because when I got there, I didn't just see someone who looked like her. I saw my daughter, the same face, the same scar, the same eyes, but she hadn't aged a single day. Before I begin, if you've ever lived through something that never quite made sense, something that stayed with you long after everyone else moved on, please leave a comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't tell this story often. In fact, for most of my life, I've avoided it, not because I forgot, but because I remembered too well. Grief has a way of settling into your bones, becoming part of how you breathe, how you wake up, how you exist in the world. And for me, that grief had a name: my daughter. Her name was Aisha. She was 6 years old when she died, or at least that's what I believed for 31 years. I still remember the day everything changed. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where nothing feels out of place. Aisha had been playing outside in the yard, chasing butterflies like she always did. She had this laugh, light, musical, like it belonged to someone who didn't know the world could ever be cruel. I was inside, washing dishes, when I heard the sound, a sharp screech of tires. Then, silence, the kind of silence that doesn't feel right. I dropped everything and ran outside, my heart already racing before my mind could catch up. There was a car stopped near the edge of our yard, the driver frozen behind the wheel, his face pale. And there, lying on the ground, was my daughter. I remember screaming. I remember running to her, falling to my knees, calling her name over and over again, as if saying it enough times would bring her back. But she didn't respond. Her small body was still, too still. The ambulance came, the police came, people gathered, voices blurred together. Hands tried to pull me away, but I wouldn't let go. I kept telling them they were wrong, that she was just unconscious, that she would wake up. But deep down, I think I already knew. At the hospital, they told me what no parent should ever hear: "She's gone." Just 2 words, and yet they destroyed everything. I don't remember much after that. The days that followed felt like a dream I couldn't wake up from. People came to the house, bringing food, offering condolences, speaking in hushed tones as if I might break completely if they spoke too loudly. Maybe I already had. The funeral was small. I couldn't bear the thought of a crowd. I barely remember the faces that were there. All I remember is the coffin, white, too small. I stood there, staring at it, unable to understand how a life so full could be reduced to something so final. They told me I should say goodbye. They told me I needed closure. Closure. I hated that word. I walked up to the coffin, my legs trembling beneath me. My hands shook as I reached out, touching the smooth surface as if I could somehow feel her through it. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I don't even know why I said that. Maybe because I couldn't protect her. Maybe because I was still hoping she could hear me. They lowered her into the ground that day. I watched as the earth covered her, each shovelful of dirt feeling like a piece of my soul being buried alongside her. And then it was over. Or at least that's what everyone else believed. But grief doesn't end with a funeral. It lingers. It changes you. It follows you into every quiet moment, every empty room, every birthday that no longer gets celebrated. For years, I kept her room exactly the same. Her toys stayed where they left them, her clothes remained folded in the drawers. I couldn't bring myself to move anything. It felt like if I did, I'd be letting her go completely. And I wasn't ready for that. Not then. Not ever. People told me time would heal. They said the pain would fade, that I would learn to live with it. And in a way, they were right. I did learn to live, but I never forgot. Every year on the anniversary of her death, I visited her grave. I would sit there for hours, talking to her as if she could hear me. I told her about my life, about how much I missed her, about how different everything felt without her. Sometimes I thought I felt something, a presence, a warmth, but I always told myself it was just my imagination. Grief can do that to you. It makes you see things, feel things, believe things that aren't really there. At least that's what I told myself. Years passed, decades even. The world moved on, and I tried my best to move with it. I grew older. My hair turned gray. The house became quieter, emptier. But one thing never changed. The ache. It was always there, just beneath the surface, waiting for the smallest memory to bring it rushing back. And then, last week happened. It was 3 a.m. I remember the exact time because I saw it glowing on the clock when the phone rang. 3. Not 39, not 3:01, exactly 3 o'clock. There's something unsettling about being woken up at that hour. It's too late to be night, too early to be morning. It feels wrong. At first, I didn't even want to answer it. I just stared at the phone, listening to it ring, my heart slowly picking up speed for reasons I couldn't explain. Something inside me felt off, but eventually I reached for it. Hello? My voice was groggy, confused. There was a brief pause on the other end. Then a woman's voice, calm, professional. Is this Mr. Rahman? Yes. This is City Hospital. I'm calling regarding your daughter. My daughter? I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind struggled to process what I had just heard. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. I think you have the wrong number, I said quickly, my voice tightening. My daughter, she was admitted tonight after an accident. She's conscious now, and she's asking for you. My grip on the phone tightened. No, I whispered. That's not possible. The woman on the other end hesitated. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She gave you your name, your address, and she described a small scar on your left wrist. She said you used to kiss it when she got scared. My heart stopped, because that was true. That was something no one else knew. Not the doctors, not the neighbors, not even my own family. Just me and my daughter. I felt a chill spread through my entire body. This isn't funny, I said, though my voice lacked conviction. Who is this? What kind of prank is this? It's not a prank, sir. Please, you need to come. She keeps asking for you. There was a pause, and then, in the background, I heard a voice, faint, weak, but unmistakable. Abu? The phone slipped slightly in my hand, because I knew that voice. I knew it better than my own, and it hadn't changed at all. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember putting on my shoes. One moment I was standing there, frozen in the middle of my room with the phone still pressed to my ear, and the next I was outside, the cold air hitting my face as I fumbled to unlock my car. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice. That voice kept echoing in my head. Abu? It wasn't just similar. It wasn't close. It was hers. For 31 years, I had carried that voice in my memory, afraid that one day I might forget how it sounded. But I never did, not once. And now, hearing it again, exactly the same, untouched by time, it felt like something inside me had been ripped open. I got into the car and just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. This isn't real, I whispered to myself. It can't be. But my body had already decided. I turned the key and the engine roared to life. The drive to the hospital should have taken 20 minutes. I made it in less than 10. I don't even remember the roads. I don't remember the traffic lights. It was like my mind had shut off everything except one single thought: get there. When I pulled into the hospital parking lot, the place looked almost deserted. A few dim lights flickered in the windows. The entrance doors slid open with a soft mechanical sound as I rushed inside. The smell hit me first, that familiar sterile scent, clean but cold. The reception desk was lit by a single overhead light. A nurse looked up as I approached, her expression shifting when she saw the panic on my face. "I got a call," I said quickly, my voice uneven, "about my daughter. They said she was here." She studied me for a moment, then glanced at her computer. "Your name?" I said, "Rahman. Please, they called me. They said she asked for me." The nurse's fingers moved across the keyboard. Her eyes flickered across the screen. And then something changed in her expression. Not confusion, something closer to concern. "Yes," she said slowly. "Room 312. My heart pounded harder. "She's really here?" I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. The nurse hesitated just for a second. Then she nodded. "Yes." That one word made my legs feel weak. "Down the hall, gently. Take the elevator, 3rd floor." I didn't thank her. I couldn't. I just turned and walked, my steps uneven, like I was learning how to move all over again. The elevator ride felt like it lasted forever. I stood there alone, staring at my reflection in the metal doors. For a moment, I barely recognized the man looking back at me. Older, tired, haunted. And suddenly, a thought crept into my mind. What if this was some kind of mistake? What if I walked into that room and saw a stranger? Or worse, what if I saw her? The door slid open with a soft ding. 3rd floor. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. The lights buzzed faintly overhead as I stepped out, my footsteps echoing against the polished floor. Room 312. I saw the number at the end of the corridor. Each step toward it felt heavier than the last. My chest tightened with every inch I moved closer. Part of me wanted to turn around, to run, to escape whatever waited behind that door. Because if this wasn't real, it would break me all over again. And if it was real, I didn't know what that meant. I reached the door. My hand hovered over the handle, trembling. Then I heard it. A soft sound from inside. A faint breath. And then, "Abu?" My entire body froze. I knew that voice. There was no doubt anymore. No confusion, no explanation, just certainty. With shaking hands, I pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit, illuminated only by the soft glow of a bedside lamp. Machines hummed quietly in the background, their steady beeping filling the silence. And there, lying in the hospital bed, was a girl. My heart stopped. She looked exactly the same small face, the same dark hair framing her cheeks, the same delicate features that I had memorized decades ago. 6 years old. She hadn't changed, not even a day. It felt like the world had tilted beneath me. This isn't possible, I whispered, my voice breaking. Her eyes slowly opened, and when they met mine, everything inside me shattered, because those eyes, they recognized me. Abu, she said softly, her lips trembling. Aisha, the name escaped my lips before I could stop it. She smiled, a small, weak smile, but it was hers, the same one I had seen 1,000 times before. You came, she whispered. Tears filled my eyes, blurring my vision. I reached out, my hand shaking as it moved towards her face. I half expected it to pass right through her, like some kind of illusion, but it didn't. My fingers touched her skin, warm, real. I let out a broken sob, dropping to my knees beside the bed. No, this can't be real, I kept saying over and over again. I buried you. Her small hand reached out, resting gently on mine. I know, she said softly. Those 2 words sent a chill down my spine. I looked up at her, my heart racing. What do you mean, you know? I asked, my voice trembling. Her expression changed slightly. The smile faded, replaced with something else, something heavier. I remember, she said quietly. My breath caught in my throat. Remember what? I asked. She hesitated, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. The dark, she whispered. The cold. I couldn't move. I tried to call you, but you couldn't hear me. An entire body go numb. No, I said immediately, shaking my head. No, that's not possible. They told me you were gone. I saw you. I wasn't gone, she said, her voice trembling now. I was just asleep. A sharp ringing filled my ears. This didn't make sense. None of it made sense. You're confused, I said quickly, though I wasn't sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. You must be. You were in an accident. Maybe you hit your head. I remember everything, she interrupted. Her grip on my hand tightened. They took me. The room seemed to grow colder. Took you? I repeated slowly. She nodded, her eyes darting towards the door as if she was afraid someone might be listening. After the ground, after it got dark, I couldn't breathe, she whispered. And then they opened it. A cold wave of dread washed over me. Who opened it? I asked, my voice barely audible. She swallowed hard. I don't know, she said. They wore masks. They didn't talk to me, not at first. My heart pounded louder. They took me somewhere, she continued, a place with bright lights and machines. They kept me there for a long time. How long? I asked. She looked at me, confused. I don't know, she said. It didn't feel long. I stared at her, my mind struggling to process what she was saying. 31 years. 31 years had passed, but to her, it felt like nothing. They told me not to tell anyone, she added suddenly, her voice dropping to a whisper. A chill ran down my spine. Who? I asked. Before she could answer, the door behind me creaked open. I turned around slowly, and standing there was a man in a dark suit, watching us. For a moment, I couldn't move. The man stood perfectly still in the doorway, his presence so quiet, so controlled, that it immediately felt wrong. Hospitals are never truly silent. There are always footsteps, distant voices, the hum of machines. But the second he appeared, It felt like everything else had faded away, like the room itself was holding its breath. He wasn't dressed like a doctor. No white coat, no badge that I could see. Just a dark, perfectly pressed suit, his hands resting calmly at his sides. Watching us. Watching her. My grip tightened around Aisha's hand. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice sharper than I expected. He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes shifted, slowly, deliberately, from me to her. And in that moment, I felt her hand tense beneath mine. Fear. Real fear. "Abu," she whispered, barely audible. "Don't let them take me again." A cold wave of anger surged through me, cutting through the confusion, the disbelief, the overwhelming flood of emotions. Take her again? I stood up, placing myself between her and the man without even thinking. "You need to leave," I said firmly. "Now." The man finally spoke. His voice was calm, too calm. "Mr. Rahman," he said, as if we were having a polite conversation, "I understand this is overwhelming." My heart skipped. "How do you know my name?" I demanded. A faint smile touched his lips. Not warm, not reassuring. Controlled. "We've been aware of you for a long time," he replied. Something about the way he said it made my stomach turn. "Who are you?" I asked again, louder this time. "What do you want?" He took a step into the room. I instinctively moved forward, blocking his path. "You wouldn't do that," he said gently, his eyes flicking toward Aisha again. "She's been through enough." My jaw tightened. "You don't get to say that, not after—" My voice caught. I didn't even know how to finish that sentence. Not after what they did? Not after what I thought happened? I didn't even know what was real anymore. "She shouldn't be here," he continued calmly. "This was not how things were supposed to unfold." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you talking about?" I asked. For a brief moment, the man studied me, not like a stranger, not even like a threat, more like an inconvenience. Then he sighed, almost as if this situation was beneath him. "Your daughter," he said, choosing his words carefully, "is part of a very specific program." The word hit me like a slap. "Program?" I repeated, disbelief flooding my voice. "She's not a program. She's my daughter." Behind me, I felt her hand tighten around the edge of the blanket. "She's scared," I said, my voice dropping, filled with something heavier now. "And she says you took her, that you pulled her out of her grave?" The man didn't flinch. He didn't deny it. "That part," he said calmly, "was necessary." A sharp ringing filled my ears. "Necessary?" "You're telling me," I said slowly, my voice shaking with anger, "that you took my child after we buried her, and you're calling that necessary?" His expression didn't change. "You need to understand that your daughter was never meant to die that day." I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. "What does that even mean?" I asked. He took another step forward. This time, I didn't move back. "She was part of a trial, a very early stage. There were complications." My mind raced, trying to make sense of his words. "A trial?" I echoed. "She was 6 years old." "Yes," he said simply. The way he said it, so casually, so matter-of-factly, made something inside me snap. "She was a child," I shouted, "not an experiment." For the first time, his expression shifted slightly. Not guilt, not regret, just mild irritation. "Emotional responses won't help you understand this. I don't want to understand it. I want to know what you did to her." Behind me, I heard a small sob. I turned slightly, just enough to see her. Aisha. She was trembling now, her eyes wide, her breathing uneven. "They're lying," she whispered. "They always lie." My heart twisted. I looked back at the man, my gaze hardening. "You stay away from her," I said, my voice shaking with fury. For the first time, he didn't argue. Instead, he studied me, and then he said something that made my blood run cold. "You really don't remember, do you?" A cold silence filled the room. "Remember what?" I asked slowly. He tilted his head slightly, as if considering whether to say it. Then he spoke. "You signed the papers." My heart stopped. "What?" I whispered. "You gave consent 31 years ago." The room began to spin. "No," I said immediately, shaking my head. "That's not possible. I would never—" "You did," he interrupted. "You just don't remember." Behind me, Aisha's voice trembled. "Abu, what is he talking about?" I couldn't answer her, because for the first time, a small fractured doubt crept into my mind, and I wasn't sure what was scaring me more, the possibility that he was lying or the possibility that he wasn't. "No," I said again, but this time the word didn't sound as strong, because something had shifted, just slightly. Not enough to believe him, but enough to make me question. "You're lying," I added, trying to steady my voice. "I would never sign anything that would hurt my child." The man didn't respond immediately. He just watched me, like he was waiting for something, waiting for me to remember. "I think," he said slowly, "you're remembering exactly what you need to and forgetting everything else." Aisha's fingers curled tightly around mine. "Abu," she whispered, her voice small, fragile. "What does he mean?" I looked at her face, unchanged by time, at the fear in her eyes, and suddenly something deep inside me stirred. A memory, faint, blurry, like trying to see through fog. "I don't know," I told her, my voice softer now, "but I'm not letting him take you anywhere." The man let out a quiet breath, almost like disappointment. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "I don't care," I replied sharply. "You've said enough. Now you need to leave." For a moment, it looked like he might argue again, but instead, he did something unexpected. He reached into his jacket once more. This time, he pulled out a thin folder, worn at the edges, old. He held it out toward me. "You should see this," he said. I didn't move. "I'm not taking anything from you," I said. "You already did," he replied calmly. The words hit harder than I expected. Slowly, hesitantly, I reached out and took the folder. It felt heavier than it should have, like it carried something more than just paper. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were documents, old ones, yellowed with age. The first page had a date, 31 years ago. My heart began to pound, and then I saw it. A signature. My signature. I froze. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." But it was. I knew my handwriting, every curve, every line. It was mine. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely holding together. "Read it," the man said. My eyes scanned the page, struggling to focus. "Voluntary consent," I read aloud, my voice shaking. "Participation in experimental medical program." My breath caught. No, I never—" "Keep reading," he said quietly. I didn't want to. Every instinct in my body told me to stop, but I couldn't. "Subject, Aisha Rahman, age 6, parental authorization granted for emergency intervention procedures." Emergency. The word echoed in my mind. Emergency. Another flicker of memory, stronger this time. A hospital room, bright lights, doctors speaking too quickly. Your daughter's condition is critical. I staggered back slightly, gripping the edge of the bed for support. No, I whispered, this isn't real. But the memories kept coming, not all at once, just pieces, fragments. Aisha in a hospital bed, her skin pale, her breathing shallow, machines beeping around her. She may not survive the night. My chest tightened. I pressed a hand to my forehead. I remember, I whispered. Behind me, Aisha's voice trembled. Abu? I turned toward her slowly, my heart breaking all over again. You were sick before the accident. Her brow furrowed. I don't remember that. I looked back at the papers. It says here you had a condition, something rare. They couldn't treat it. The man stepped forward slightly. We offered an alternative, he said. My jaw clenched. You mean an experiment, I snapped. He didn't deny it. It was her only chance, he said. Her only chance, I repeated, anger rising again. You're telling me you convinced me to hand over my child for some program? You didn't need convincing, he replied calmly. The words hit harder than a blow. Desperate. Another memory surfaced. Me sitting beside her hospital bed, holding her hand, begging her not to leave me. I'll do anything, I had said. Just save her. My chest tightened painfully. I didn't know, I whispered. You knew enough, the man said. I shook my head. No, I would never agree to something like this without understanding it fully. You understood the risk. You just didn't have another option. I looked down at the papers again. There it was, a clause. Subject may experience memory alteration, temporal displacement. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? I asked, my voice trembling. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said it. It means she wouldn't age the way you expect. The room went silent. I looked at Aisha. Still 6, still the same, after 31 years. She hasn't aged a day, I whispered. Not from her perspective, he said. My mind struggled to catch up. You're saying she's been alive this whole time? Yes. Then where has she been? I demanded. He hesitated, and for the first time I saw something flicker in his expression, something uncertain. She was kept under observation, he said. Observation? I repeated, my voice rising. You mean locked away? She was protected, he corrected. Aisha shook her head weakly. No, it wasn't like that. I turned to her quickly. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with tears. They didn't hurt me, not at first. They told me I was special, that I was helping people. My chest tightened. But then, she continued, her voice trembling, they started doing things, tests. They wouldn't let me leave. I felt a surge of rage unlike anything I had ever known. I turned back to the man. You call that protection? I demanded. He didn't respond. They took my daughter, I said, my voice shaking with anger. They kept her hidden for decades, and you expect me to just stand here and accept that? You gave consent, he repeated. I was desperate, I shouted. I thought I was saving her life, not handing her over to be used. The room fell silent again. Then the man spoke, quieter this time. And yet she's alive. The words hit differently, not comforting, not reassuring, just heavy. Because he wasn't wrong. She was alive, standing, no, lying right in front of me, breathing, speaking, looking at me with those same eyes I thought I had lost forever. But at what cost? I looked at her again, at the fear, at the confusion, at the child who had been taken from me and never given the chance to grow up. "This ends now," I said firmly. The man's gaze sharpened slightly. "You don't have the authority to make that decision. I'm her father, and you signed that authority away." A heavy silence followed. Then Aisha spoke, soft but clear. "I don't want to go back." We both turned to her. Her small hands gripped the blanket tightly. "I don't care what papers say. I want to stay with my father." My chest tightened. I stepped closer to her, placing my hand over hers. "You're not going anywhere," I said gently. The man exhaled slowly. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "I don't care," I replied sharply. "Maybe," I replied, "but it's my mistake to make." For a long moment he said nothing. Then he nodded once, as if coming to a decision. "This isn't over," he said quietly. A chill ran down my spine. "What does that mean?" I asked. He turned toward the door. "It means," he said without looking back, "you've just made yourself a problem." And with that, he walked out, leaving us alone. But somehow, it didn't feel like it was over. Not even close. The night felt different now. Not because we were safe, but because something had shifted. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't just reacting, I was remembering. The older man's eyes stayed locked on mine, that calm, controlled expression now carrying something new beneath it. Caution. "You shouldn't be able to recall that," he said quietly. I tightened my grip around Aisha as she leaned weakly against me. "You said there were risks," I replied, my voice steadier now despite the storm inside me. "You said memory interference might not hold forever." His jaw tightened just slightly. "You were never meant to connect it all," he said. "And yet here we are," I answered. Aisha shifted in my arms, her breathing shallow. "Abu, what are you talking about?" she whispered. I looked down at her, my heart aching. "There was another part of the agreement," I said softly. "Something I didn't understand back then, but I do now." I looked back at the man. "You gave me a fail-safe." Silence. Even the wind seemed to still around us. "You said if the program ever compromised her life beyond recovery," I continued slowly, each word pulling itself from the depths of memory, "then I had the right to terminate participation." The man's expression hardened. "That clause required verification," he said. "And who decides that?" I shot back. "You?" His silence answered me. I shook my head. "No," I said firmly, "that's not how it works." I adjusted Aisha carefully, holding her closer. "You told me," I continued, "that the final authority would remain with the parent if memory restoration occurred naturally." A flicker of tension crossed his face again. It was subtle, but it was there. "You're interpreting incomplete information," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm remembering exactly what you hoped I wouldn't." Aisha's fingers curled weakly against my shirt. "Abu, am I going to die?" she whispered. The question broke something inside me. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay strong. "No," I said, my voice soft but firm. "Not if I have anything to say about it." I looked back at the man. "She's already deteriorating. You said it yourself." "Yes," he admitted. Then your program has failed, I continued slowly, each word pulling itself from the depths of memory, which activates my authority. His gaze sharpened. You don't fully understand what you're invoking, he said. Then explain it, I challenged. For a moment he didn't speak. Then, slowly, she cannot exist outside the system indefinitely, he said. Her current state is the result of controlled conditions. Without them, she will collapse. I understand that. And if you terminate participation, he continued, you don't save her. My heart pounded. You lose her. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Behind me, Aisha's breathing hitched. I closed my eyes for just a second, just long enough to feel it, the weight of the choice, the impossible, unbearable weight. If I let her take her, she would live, but not really live, not free, not with me, just another subject, another experiment, another prisoner. And if I didn't, I looked down at her, at my daughter, the child I had buried, the child I had just found again. Her eyes met mine, trusting, always trusting. Abu, she whispered, I don't want to go back there. My chest tightened painfully. I know, I said. Her hand weakly reached up, touching my face. I missed you, she said softly. The tears came before I could stop them. I missed you too, I whispered. For 31 years I had lived with regret, with grief, with the belief that I had lost her forever. And now I had her back, but only for a moment, just a moment. I looked back at the man. You said there was always a choice. He nodded once. There is. I took a slow breath. Then I spoke. I'm invoking the clause. The words felt heavier than anything I had ever said in my life. The man's expression went completely still. Are you certain? He asked. No, I admitted, but I know this. I held Aisha closer. She deserves to be free. A long silence followed. Then the man exhaled, almost like acceptance. Very well, he said quietly. He reached into his jacket again, but this time I didn't react, because I understood now. He wasn't reaching for control. He was reaching for the end. He pulled out a small device, different from the one before, simpler, final. Aisha's grip tightened slightly. Abu, what's happening? She whispered. I looked down at her, my heart breaking all over again. It's okay, I said softly. I'm right here. Her eyes searched mine. Are they taking me? I shook my head. No, I said gently. No one's taking you anywhere. She relaxed just a little. The man stepped closer, stopping a few feet away. Once this is done, there's no reversal. I know. He hesitated, just for a second. Then he handed me the device. My hand trembled as I took it. It was lighter than I expected. Too light, like something so small shouldn't carry so much weight. What do I do? I asked. He met my gaze. You stay with her, he said. I nodded. I lowered myself to the ground, holding her in my arms, just like I had when she was small, just like I should have done more often. Her head rested against my chest. She could hear my heartbeat. Abu, she whispered. Yes? You don't leave me, she said. My throat tightened. I won't, I promised. Not this time. Never again. I pressed the button. There was no sound, no light, nothing dramatic, just stillness. For a moment, nothing changed.
Then, slowly, her breathing eased, her body relaxed, the tension left her completely. "Abu," she said softly, her voice peaceful now. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not scared anymore." Tears streamed down my face. "That's okay," I told her. "You don't have to be." She smiled, a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in decades. "I love you," she said. My voice broke. "I love you too." Her hand rested against my chest. Then, slowly, it slipped. Her body went still. And just like that, she was gone. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything we had lost, everything we had found, and everything we would never get back. I held her there for a long time. I don't know how long. Minutes? Hours? Maybe longer. The man didn't interrupt. None of them did. Eventually, I looked up. He was still there, watching. Not cold anymore, just quiet. "It's done," I said. He nodded. "Yes." I looked back down at her, at the peace on her face. "She was never yours," I said softly. He didn't argue. "She was always yours," he replied. I let those words settle. Then I closed my eyes. For the first time in 31 years, the weight lifted. Not completely, not forever, but enough. Enough to breathe again. Enough to let go. Because this time, I didn't lose her. I set her free.
The headlights grew brighter, closer, steady. Not fast, not aggressive, just certain, like they already knew how this would end. My hands tightened around the steering wheel, my pulse pounding in my ears. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at those lights cutting through the darkness. This couldn't be happening. Not like this. "Abu?" Aisha's voice was soft, barely awake. "Why did we stop?" I swallowed hard, forcing myself to move. "The car, it's not working," I said quickly, already reaching for the door handle. Her eyes opened wider as she turned to look at me. "What do we do?" she asked. I looked ahead. Empty road. No houses, no lights, nothing but darkness stretching in every direction. And behind us, them. "We keep moving," I said. I stepped out of the car, the cold air hitting me instantly. The silence out here was different, thicker, heavier, like the world had narrowed down to just this road, this moment. I rushed to her side and opened the door. "Come on," I said, helping her out. She stumbled slightly, her legs still weak, but she held on to me tightly. The headlights were closer now, too close. "They're coming," she whispered. "I know," I said. I looked around quickly. There was nothing. No buildings, no cover, just the road and a narrow stretch of land leading into darkness. Fields. "Over there," I said, pointing. "We go off the road." She nodded, trusting me without hesitation. We moved, fast as we could, away from the car, away from the lights. The ground was uneven beneath our feet, dry and rough. Aisha stumbled again, and I caught her before she could fall. "It's okay," I said. "I've got you." We kept going, into the darkness. The headlights reached the car behind us. The engine stopped. Doors opened. Even from a distance, I could hear it. Calm, controlled. No panic, no rush. They weren't worried. That terrified me more than anything. "They're not chasing us," Aisha whispered. I glanced back. She was right.
They weren't running. They were just walking, following, like they knew we couldn't get far. My chest tightened. "Keep moving," I said. We pushed deeper into the field, the darkness swallowing us whole. The only light now was the faint glow of the moon above, barely enough to see where we were stepping. My breathing grew heavier. So did hers. "Abu, I can't," she whispered, her voice trembling. I stopped, just for a second. I knelt down in front of her, placing my hands on her shoulders. "Listen to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're stronger than you think. We just need to go a little further." She nodded, but tears filled her eyes. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know," I said softly. "So am I." I took her hand again. "Come on." We kept going, step by step, through the darkness. Then, a sound. Not behind us. Ahead. I froze. "What is it?" Aisha asked. I listened. A low hum. Faint, but growing louder. And then, light. Not from the road, from the field itself. Aisha gasped. "Abu!" I turned, and what I saw made my blood run cold. A vehicle, not like the ones on the road, sleek, dark, silent. Its lights weren't harsh like headlights. They were softer, controlled, almost artificial. It was already there, waiting. "No," I whispered. "They knew," Aisha said, her voice shaking. My heart dropped. Of course they knew. They had always known. The men from the road weren't chasing us. They were guiding us, driving us exactly where they wanted us to go. The vehicle door opened slowly, and the older man stepped out, the same one from the hospital, his expression calm, unbothered. "You've come far enough," he said. I stepped in front of Aisha again, my body tense. "Stay behind me," I whispered. Her hand gripped the back of my shirt. "You planned this," I said, my voice filled with anger. He didn't deny it. "We anticipated your reaction," he replied. "Fear often leads to predictable choices." My jaw clenched. "You let us leave," I said. "Yes, so you could track us." He tilted his head slightly. "So you could lead us here." A heavy silence fell. I looked around again. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to run. "You're not taking her," I said, even though part of me already knew how this would end. His gaze softened slightly. "I'm not here to take her," he said. The words caught me off guard. "What?" I asked. "I'm here to give you a choice," he continued. A cold feeling settled in my chest. "What kind of choice?" I asked carefully. He gestured towards Aisha. "Her condition is unstable," he said. "The process that preserved her, it wasn't meant to last this long without maintenance." I felt her grip tighten behind me. "What does that mean?" I demanded. "It means," he calmly said, "that her body is not functioning the way it should. It requires intervention." I shook my head. "No, you're just trying to scare me." "Am I?" he asked. He looked past me. "Look at her." I turned. Aisha was pale, more than before, her breathing uneven. "Abu, I don't feel good," she whispered. Panic surged through me. "It's okay," I said quickly. "You're just tired." Her knees buckled. I caught her before she hit the ground. "No, no, stay with me," I said, my voice breaking. Her body felt weaker,
lighter, like something was draining out of her. I looked back at the man. "What did you do to her?" I shouted. "Nothing," he said calmly. "This is what happens without proper care." My heart pounded. "What do you want?" I asked again. "You already know," he said. I did, and I hated it. "She comes with us," he continued, "and we stabilize her. She lives." "And if she doesn't?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. His silence said everything. I looked down at her, at my daughter, the child I thought I had lost forever, the child I had just gotten back. Her eyes met mine, tired, scared, but trusting. "Abu, don't let them take me," she whispered. My chest tightened so painfully I thought it might collapse in on itself. "I won't," I said, but the words felt hollow, because for the first time, I didn't know if I could keep that promise. I looked back at the man. "If I go with her?" I asked. He shook his head. "That's not an option." "Then there is no choice," I said. "There is always a choice," he replied. "You just have to decide what matters more." My mind raced. My heart screamed. There had to be another way. There had to be. And then a memory hit me, clearer than anything before. That hospital room, that moment, the papers, the signature, and something else, a clause, something I hadn't fully understood back then. But now it came rushing back. I looked at him. "There was another option," I said slowly. For the first time, his expression changed just slightly. "You remember," he said. My heart pounded. "Yes," I replied. A heavy silence fell between us. "What option?" Aisha whispered weakly. I didn't take my eyes off him. "The one you didn't think I'd ever recall," I said slowly. His gaze sharpened. "That option was declined," he said. "Not permanently," I replied. A flicker of tension passed through him. For the first time, he looked uncertain. And in that moment, I realized something. We weren't as powerless as I thought. Not anymore. The elevator moved too slowly. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was resisting us. I kept my eyes on the glowing numbers above the door as they ticked down. 3, 2. Aisha clung to my arm, her small fingers gripping tightly, as if letting go even for a moment would make me disappear. "Are they coming?" she whispered. I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know, and I was afraid that if I said the wrong thing, she would hear the fear in my voice. The elevator jolted slightly as it reached the ground floor. Then the doors slid open. "Come on," I said quickly. We stepped out into the lobby. It looked exactly the same as before, quiet, dimly lit, almost empty. But now everything felt different. Every shadow seemed deeper. Every corner felt like it could be hiding something. I scanned the room. The nurse was still at the desk, speaking on the phone, her back partially turned towards us. The main entrance was just ahead. Glass doors. Freedom. At least, that's what it looked like. We moved quickly, but tried not to draw attention. I kept my pace steady, resisting the urge to run. Running would make us obvious. Running would make people look. And right now, I didn't want anyone looking. We were just a father and his daughter leaving the hospital. That's all we needed to be. Almost there. A few more steps. My hand tightened around hers as we approached the doors. Then, Mr. Rahman? The voice came from behind us. Calm, controlled. My entire body went rigid. Slowly, I turned. It wasn't the same man from before. This one was older, his hair streaked with gray, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. But the suit was the same, and the eyes, cold, focused. He wasn't alone. 2 more men stood behind him, blocking the hallway. Aisha pressed closer to me. "Abu," she whispered. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "We're leaving," I said firmly. The older man gave a small nod. "I understand," he replied, "but I'm afraid that won't be possible." My jaw tightened. "We're not asking for permission," I said. For a brief moment, something almost like amusement flickered in his eyes. "I admire your determination," he said, "but this situation is no longer within your control." I stepped slightly in front of Aisha. "She's my daughter. That makes it my control." The man tilted his head. "Legally, that's debatable." Anger flared in my chest. "I don't care about your laws. I care about her." Behind me, I felt Aisha's grip tighten. "Please," she whispered, "I don't want to go with them." That was all I needed. I turned back toward the doors. "We're leaving," I said again. And this time, I moved. Fast. I pushed the door open and stepped outside, pulling Aisha with me. Cold night air hit my face, sharp and immediate. "Stop them." The command came from behind us. Not loud, not urgent, but absolute. I didn't look back. "Run," I said, and we did. Across the parking lot, our footsteps echoed against the pavement as we moved between rows of parked cars. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in short bursts. "Abu, I'm scared," Aisha cried. "I know," I said. "Just stay with me." I fumbled with my keys as we reached the car, my hands shaking again. "Come on, come on." The key finally slid into the lock. I yanked the door open, helping her inside before rushing around to the driver's seat. The engine roared to life. I didn't hesitate. I hit the gas. The car shot forward just as I saw them step out of the hospital entrance. They didn't run. They didn't shout. They just watched. That was the worst part. They knew something I didn't. I sped out of the parking lot, my hands gripping the wheel tightly as I turned onto the main road. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of the engine, our breathing, the rush of the night air. "Did we get away?" Aisha asked softly. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Nothing. No headlights, no sign of them. "For now," I said. But even as I said it, something didn't feel right. They hadn't chased us. They hadn't even tried. Why? Aisha shifted slightly in her seat, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. "Where are we going?" she asked. I hesitated. I didn't have a plan. Not really. "We're not going home," I said finally. She looked at me. "Why?" "Because they'll find us. Because they probably already know where we live. Because nothing about this is normal." I couldn't say any of that. "It's not safe," I said instead. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. I drove in silence for a while, my mind racing. We needed somewhere they wouldn't think to look, somewhere off the grid. And then a thought came to me. An old place, a place I hadn't been in years. A small house, far outside the city. It used to belong to my father. No one else knew about it, or at least, I hoped they didn't. "That's where we're going," I murmured. "What?" "Somewhere safe," I said. She didn't question it. She just leaned her head against the seat, her eyes slowly closing. She was exhausted. Of course she was. Everything she had been through, everything that had just happened, it was too much for anyone, especially a child. I glanced at her again. Still 6, still the same little girl I had lost, and yet not the same at all. "They said I gave consent," I said quietly, more to myself than to her. My hands tightened on the wheel. Did I? Could I have? The memories were still broken, incomplete, but the feeling, the desperation, that part felt real. "I was trying to save you," I whispered. Aisha didn't respond. She was already asleep, or at least resting. I drove on, the road stretching endlessly ahead. The city lights faded behind us, replaced by darkness, silence, isolation. For the first time since the call, we were alone. But it didn't feel like safety. It felt like the calm before something worse. I checked the rearview mirror again. Nothing. No cars, no lights, no sign of them. And yet, that feeling wouldn't go away. The feeling that we were being watched, tracked, hunted. Then, a sudden flicker. The dashboard lights dimmed for just a second, then came back. I frowned. What was that? The engine sputtered slightly. My grip tightened. No, not now. The car jerked, then slowed. "No," I said again, pressing the gas. Nothing. The engine dead. We rolled to a stop on the side of the empty road. Silence. Complete silence. Aisha stirred beside me. "Abu?" she mumbled. I stared at the dashboard. Everything was off. Dead. My heart sank. This wasn't random. This wasn't bad luck. Slowly, I looked up, and in the distance, far behind us, I saw them. Headlights. Approaching. The door closed behind him with a soft click, but the silence he left behind, it wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like something unseen was still standing in the room with us. I stayed where I was for a few seconds, staring at the door, half expecting him to walk back in. My heart was still racing, my thoughts tangled, refusing to settle into anything that made sense. Then I felt it, a small tug on my sleeve. I turned. Aisha was looking at me. Her eyes were wide, searching. "Abu," she said quietly, "are they coming back?" The question hit harder than anything else that had happened so far, because I didn't have an answer. I forced myself to sit down beside her again, taking her hand gently. "I don't know," I admitted softly, "but I'm here, and I'm not leaving you." She studied my face, as if trying to decide whether to believe me. Then she nodded, just a little. "Okay," she whispered. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Almost. But then reality came rushing back. "They're going to come looking for you," I said, my voice low. Her smile faded. "I know," she whispered. I stood up slowly, running a hand through my hair. I needed to think. We couldn't just stay here. That man made it clear this wasn't over, and something about the way he said it told me he wasn't bluffing. I walked to the door and opened it slightly, peeking into the hallway. Empty. Too empty. I walked quickly to the nurse's station. The same nurse from earlier looked up as I approached. Her expression shifted again when she saw me. "Is everything okay?" she asked. I hesitated. How was I supposed to explain any of this? "There was a man," I said finally, "in a suit. He just walked into her room." The nurse frowned. "A visitor?" she asked. "No," I said firmly. "He wasn't family. He wasn't a doctor." She glanced down at her computer, typing something quickly. "I don't see anyone signed in." "Of course not." "Can you check security footage?" I asked. She hesitated. "That would require authorization," she said carefully. I clenched my jaw. "This is serious. That man shouldn't be here." She studied my face for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll call security." I thanked her, but even as I said it, I knew it wouldn't be enough. People like him, they don't just walk into places by accident. They're allowed in, or they don't need permission at all. I turned and walked back toward the room, my mind racing. We needed to leave. That much was clear now. But where would we go, and how far could we really run from something like this? I pushed the door open and stepped back inside. Aisha looked up immediately. "Where did you go?" she asked, a hint of panic in her voice. "I'm right here," I said quickly, moving back to her side. "I just needed to check something." She relaxed slightly. "Abu, are we safe?" I paused. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I told a lie. "Yes," I said gently, "we're safe," because she needed to hear it, even if it wasn't true. I sat down beside her again. "We're not staying here," I said quietly. Her eyes widened. "Where will we go?" "I don't know yet, but we can't wait for them to come back." She nodded slowly. "I don't want to go with them." "You won't," I said firmly. I stood up again, this time more decisively. "We need to move," I said. "Can you walk?" She hesitated. "I think so," she said. I helped her sit up slowly, careful not to rush her. She winced slightly, but she didn't complain. "Easy," I said softly. "Take your time." After a moment, she swung her legs over the side of the bed. For a second, she looked so small, so fragile, that it hit me all over again. 31 years. Stolen. I pushed the thought away. Not now. Right now, I needed to get her out of here. I grabbed a spare blanket from the chair and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Stay close to me," I said. She nodded, gripping my hand tightly. We moved toward the door. Every step felt too loud, too exposed. I opened the door slowly, peeking out again. Empty. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's go." We stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered slightly overhead as we moved, our footsteps echoing softly against the floor. We reached the elevator. I pressed the button and waited. Each second felt longer than the last. Then, a distant sound. Footsteps. Multiple. Coming from the far end of the hallway. I turned my head slowly, and there they were. 2 men, dressed just like him, walking towards us. My heart dropped. "They're here," Aisha whispered, her grip tightening painfully around my hand. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open. I didn't hesitate. "Move," I said. We stepped inside quickly. I hit the button for the ground floor. The doors began to close. But just before they did, one of the men looked up, and our eyes met. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He just reached into his jacket. The doors shut. The elevator started moving. Aisha pressed herself against me, her breathing uneven. "Abu," she whispered. "It's okay," I said, though my voice was tight. "We're getting out of here." But deep down, I knew. This wasn't escape. This was just the beginning.